So I don't see either of those as really a big problem. Yeah. I don't see them as proof of Russian imperialism or something. Yeah. Soviet imperialism.
I wonder what your opinion of Gorbachev in retrospect is, and if you were Russian, would you be a Gorbachev voter this year?
If I was Russian, would I be a Gorbachev voter? If I were, I'd be a rarity, an unusual creature. My opinion of Gorbachev was that he was well-intended, but he didn't understand power, and he didn't understand what he was up against. And Perestroika didn't seem to have any content. It wasn't clear what the hell it was. What was it that you were really restructuring and how? And then later, by 1991, he got pretty dirty under Yeltsin's influence, when he canceled the whole Supreme Soviet and told them to dissolve, and they wouldn't, and he forced the vote 3 times until they dissolved. He cut off microphones. So he became, toward the end, pretty much, by logic, he found himself caught up in a thing which got bigger than himself. And so I don't think too much of Gorbachev. I mean, I think personally he was a pretty decent guy, but the whole system unraveled under his auspices, and he never really saw what hit him, like a lot of the people. Yeah.
My question is not about Russia, it's actually about the far right in this country. If one has fascism and a left-wing movement, I've got to hide it.
She wants to know where the idea come that fascism was a left-wing movement, and why doesn't the right in this country support a strong centralized government in the traditional way that the right in Europe does, and is acting more like local? Well, it depends what you mean by the right. If you mean the Montana militiamen who want to, just keep everybody off the front lawn or something, they're very local, it's true. But the right in this country uses this strong sense for strong central government or weak central government, depending on the particular issue. If it's Social Security, it wants to dismantle the government. If it's military defense and Pentagon, it wants the government to grow and grow and grow. So it depends what it is. If it's corporate welfareism, it supports government spending. If it's welfare for people who are down and out, it doesn't support it because that weakens their moral fiber. The fascist Nazis left. Well, they had a left-leaning wing, the SA, the stormtroopers under Ernst Röhm, but they were wiped out fairly early. Hitler used the SA to win the battle of the streets and take state power, and then he used the state to crush the SA. And that the left hinge is simply, you get it with Pat Buchanan. It's a perfect mix. Pat Buchanan is against minimum wage. He's for the flat tax. He's for tax cuts for the rich. He's a right-wing reactionary. He's not that different from Steve Forbes, except he also has this little overlay of populist rhetoric and talks about the ordinary little working guy against the big corporations. He says that a couple of times, and wow. And that is to attract a mass base. The right always has to do that. The right represents 2% of the population. It has to find issues like abortion, school prayers, or populist rhetoric, whatever, to try to attract people and give the appearance that they're on your side. You see, racism is a very good issue for them, to divide people against each other along ethnic lines. It has a complete success in the dismemberment of Yugoslavia. Here's a country with a developing industrial base. They were turning out cars that were beginning to compete with the Germans. There was no room for Yugoslavia in Europe except as a colony. So you break it all up. You break it up in the name of freedom and autonomy and self-determination and the like. And you play on ethnic animosities to do that. What we have to understand is that identity politics can go just so far that even if you think that your greatest calling and mission and feeling in life is to realize the full experience of yourself as a Chicano lesbian, or whatever you are, you also have to remember that you're a working person, that you're breathing the same polluted air, that you're getting taxed up the kazoo, that you are being exploited, that you may not have a job, that you have to pay rent. You also have all those other issues, and all the different identity groups that have been working so hard during the 80s and 70s to distinguish themselves, to develop their own autonomy, to separate themselves from everybody else, have to realize that they all have a common enemy, that they're going to do it to all of you. When they come, they will round up the gays, and they will round up the African Americans and the Chicanos, and they will round up, they will even round up a lot of angry white males like me and others in this audience. And what we have to realize is that all these issues, many of these issues are interlinked. That is not to reduce. There are particular issues that have particular grievances and particular histories and agendas. Women's issues, gay issues, African American issues, they all have that. And I'm not trying to reduce that to class struggle. But they all are linked in some way to class struggle, and they all face a common enemy. It is time for unity. It is time for people to start emphasizing the things that bring them together and not emphasizing the few things that might separate them. Yes, does the anti-immigrant backlash here relate to parallel to the Nazis? Yeah, it's just what I just said, that you find groups, you find irrelevant enemies, and you take people with very real grievances, and you say your problem is due to whatever, the gays or the Jews or the immigrants or the welfare mothers or the feminists or this group, and you try to redirect people's legitimate grievances about legitimate things that are happening to them to these kind of irrelevant things. Dick Gregory had, and I hope some of you went to the march, the Unity March we had this past Sunday. Dick Gregory had a great point. He said, you know, they say African American people are all on welfare, and then they say that with this affirmative action, African American people are taking away all the jobs from the whites. So now which is it? Are we on welfare or we have your jobs? I thought it was a good point. Could we make sure the questions relate to, at least some way relate to the content of tonight's talk? I also will not do punditry questions. I'm not part of the McLaughlin group. Nobody will ask me, who do you think will win the election, blah, blah, blah. What do you think will blah, blah, blah. None of those questions, okay. These have been pretty good questions, I mean. No Unabomber questions? Go ahead.
I loved your book, Inventing Reality. I think just the title alone is what made sense to me because of the media concentration and its story that it tells us.
Did everybody hear this? That's very good. Speak.
When I read your book, it stimulated me to become much, much more aware. So I thank you for that. My question is...
Oh, why can't I get more questions like that? Thanks. It's always great to bring your sister along, I think.
I was shocked. Actually, I'd love to have your blue eyes. But, I was shocked when you said you were a Marxist. We were all outside going, he didn't say that in any of his books. So my question to you is this. I like the catechism thing, that the fact that it was never really implemented. My question to you, what is your perfect world? Because I think we all see communism and how it was presented in its, all its failings as very non-creative, very oppressive that way, that didn't have its creative outlets. What is your perfect world?
By the way, communism, let me just say, there was a lot of creative art, there was a lot of creative dance. The ballet was incredible. When Balanchine and those guys went to Moscow after 30 years, they were struck by the incredible athletic, energetic, and powerful evolution that ballet had taken. There was some good theater. I mean, it wasn't quite as bleak and bad as, and that's what I always said, it wasn't quite as bleak and bad as we kept hearing in the Western press. The perfect world, I mean, I don't have, that the essence of Marxism is that there is no perfect world. That even in the best of societies, there's going to be a lot of imperfect problems, and that problems are never always finally solved. I'm a bread and butter Marxist. I believe just in trying to get the basic justices to people and to stop the most horrendous injustices and to show how all these issues are linked. The issues of environmentalism, the issues of sexism, the issues of the breaking up and destruction of labor unions, the issues of unemployment, so forth. These are all linked. The issues of of wars in other countries.